Okay, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today, inshallah, we will start to examine a poem for T.S. Eliot, one of our great, actually, modernist poets. And this poem is called The Wasteland. It is a very difficult text that needs actually you to read the notes that Eliot himself gave for the readers to understand what he wanted to say. Okay, so let's start. So The Wasteland is a modernist poem by T.S. Eliot that illuminates the devastating after effects of World War I. First published in 1922, the poem is considered by many to be Eliot's masterpiece. It has 5 sections, okay? So, fine. So The Wasteland is a dramatic monologue. What do you mean by a dramatic monologue? So we have one speaker talking to himself, okay, and but you should notice that the speaker will change, okay, in the scenes. So yes, we have one speaker. We don't have conversation, okay. So every time in one of the parts there will be one speaker telling us the story, okay, but there will be no other characters exchanging the talk with this speaker, okay. So this is a dramatic monologue that changes speakers, locations, and times throughout. The Wasteland draws on a dizzying array of literary, musical, historical, and popular cultural allusions. So it is full of allusions from different resources in order to present the terror. Here, what is important for us, the terror, the futility, and the alienation of modern life in the wake of World War I or after World War I. So you would find that he is actually fetching for us from history, from mythology, from religions, from other literary works. He would fetch for us actually different situations and different ideas that will reflect this kind of terror, futility, and alienation. Okay. So let's start examining or just getting the ideas of the sections of the Wasteland, okay? So the first section, the title of the first section is The Burial of the Dead. The Burial of the Dead. The poem's speaker talks about how spring is an awful time of year, stirring up memories of bygone days and unfulfilled desires. So here he starts with speaking about spring, but it's not the beauty of a spring. It's not the life renewal during spring. No, he considers spring as a cruel time because it reminds us of the past memories that we can't restore in our life. Okay? Then the poem shifts into specific childhood memories of a woman named Mary. Okay? So you would find that a speaker is talking about spring, which is cruel. Suddenly, we are in the middle of the childhood memories of a woman who is named Mary. But then we have another shift, which is a description of a tangled dead trees and land that isn't great for growing stuff. فجأة بنشوف أمامنا أشجار يعني عقيمة لا تصلح، جافة لا تصلح إنها تورق أو تطلع أزهار. Okay, so this is actually contradiction because he started with the spring, but then from cruel spring we jump to memories of a woman, and then now to a place where the trees are dead and are unable to grow or to become green. Suddenly you are in, this is the third shift, in a room with a clairvoyant or spiritual medium named Madame Sosostris, okay, who reads you your fortune. Okay, so the spring, the cruel spring, the childhood memories of Mary, the dead trees, the spiritual medium اللي هو الوسيط الروحي Madame Sesostris reading the fortune, and now you then watch a crowd of people flowing over London Bridge like zombies. Okay, so this is actually a reference to the alienation of people. They are busy, they are alienated from each other, they are just like today. Everyone is carrying his mobile and focusing on the screen of his mobile without paying attention to the other people. So at that time, the people were like just walking like zombies because they had disconnection. Okay. Now the second actually, well, the law Wasteland. Okay, the burial of the second one is a game of chess. Yes, the second section is called a game of chess. This section takes its title from two plays by the early 17th century playwright Thomas Middleton, in one of which the moves in a game of chess denote stages in a seduction. This section focuses on two opposing scenes, one of high society and one of the lower classes. Okay, so notice just the title is taking from an old actually play. Okay, now let's come to the scene. What happens in this section? Now we have two opposing scenes, as we said, one of the high class, okay, and one of the low class. Now the first half of the section portrays a wealthy, highly groomed woman surrounded by exquisite furnishing as she waits for a lover. Her neurotic thoughts become frantic, meaningless cries. Her day culminates with plans for a trip and a game of chess. You would feel that you are lost actually here, because we started with that woman. She is alone. Yes, she's wealthy, but she's alone and she is waiting for a lover. She doesn't have a lover. So this is another actually reflection of alienation and disconnection with the people around you. Okay, but then because of her thoughts, she starts to show, or to we started to hear her frantic, meaningless cries. Okay, now suddenly she's quiet and she decides to put plans for a trip and a game of chess. So the people are lost actually. The second part of this section, as we said, the first one for the high class, now for the lower class. The second part of this section shifts to a London bar room where two women discuss a third woman. Between the bartender's repeated calls of "Hurry up, please, it's time." The bar is closing for the night. One of the women recounts a conversation with their friend Lil, whose husband has just been discharged from the army. Now they are talking about their friend Lil, two women in the bar, and they are talking about their friend Lil. Her husband, Lil's husband, came back from the army, and she has cheated. Okay, now the lady who was speaking, she has cheated Lil over her failure to get herself some. Here she criticized Lil because she failed to get herself some false teeth in order to make her shape beautiful, telling her that her husband will seek out the company of other women if she doesn't improve her appearance. So the two women are in a bar talking about their friend whose husband came back from the army. They criticized this friend because she doesn't take care of herself and she doesn't try to improve her view. So they think that her husband will go and find another woman. However, Lily claims that the cause of her ravaged looks is the medication she took to induce an abortion, having nearly died giving birth to her fifth child. She had refused to have another, but her husband won't leave her alone. The women leave the bar to a chorus of good nights, reminiscent of Ophelia's farewell speech in Hamlet. So it seems that this woman suffered in her relationship with her husband. He wanted something and she wanted something else, but he imposed his authority on her, and that led to the deterioration of her beauty and her care about being a beautiful woman. She considered that all she wanted was to keep herself alive, but he never cared about her, so she didn't care about improving herself. Now, because of this sad or tragic view or story that we are listening to, the two women will leave now the bar, and the poem will start with telling the farewell speech in Hamlet, which was said by Ophelia. إذن اللي خطبة الوداع اللي حكتها أوفيليا بعد موت Hamlet. Okay, so this is a very sad actually. It is an allusion to reflect the sadness inside this woman. Okay. Now let's come to the third section. In the third section, the title is the fire sermon. The title of this, which is the longest section of the Wasteland, is taken from a sermon given by Buddha, in which he encourages his followers to give up earthly passion, symbolized by fire, and seek freedom from earthly things. Section 3 opens with a speaker who's hanging out beside London's river Thames, and feeling bad about the fact that there is no magic left in the world. The focus swaps back to the story of Philomel for a second. Then another speaker talks about how he might have been asked for a weekend of sex by Smyrna merchant. Next, you are hearing from Teresias. So we started with a man near the river, and then we have another speaker talks about the focus swaps back to the story of Philomel, and we have a new speaker who's talking about another speaker who's talking about a merchant who asked him to spend a weekend of sex. Okay, and then we have Teresias. Teresias is a blind prophet, okay, from myth, who was turned into a woman for 7 years by the goddess Hera. You hear about a scene where a modern young man and woman, this is Teresias, because Teresias is able to see the future. So now he's telling us a story of a young man and a woman. Okay, he is as if he is looking at their house, and he is telling us the events that are going on inside that house. So a modern young man and woman, both not much to look at, are having this really awful, loveless sex. Okay, finally, okay, so we would see that the woman is waiting for the young man, who is an accountant, but this accountant is an arrogant. When he entered, she actually he had sex with her, and she wasn't happy with that, because it was like a duty, not out of love, but it's just out of lust and desire, and he left her. Finally, you hear someone singing a popular song, which in the context of this poem just sounds depressing. So all the stories until now that we listen to or hear are leading us to feeling sad and feeling that those people are separated from their context, they are alienated, and their life is horrible. Okay. Now, I want to just remind you, in part 1, when we talked about Sesistress, okay, Sesistress, while she was reading the cards, okay, one of the cards, she told her the person in front of her that he will die because of water. Okay, so remember that, because we will come to this idea. Now we will come to death by water. Death by water, you have to connect it with Sosistris, Madame Sosistris fortune reading, okay? In a brief scene, you watch as a dead sailor named Phlebas decays at the bottom of the ocean. So here, this is a connection. Madame Sosistris saw for us the listener, her listener, dying in water. And now this is interpreted in the fourth part, where we see a dead sailor whose name is Phlebas, and his body is in the bottom of the ocean decaying. And the poem tells you to think of this young man whenever you start feeling too proud. So don't forget, death is coming. This young man was as handsome and strong as you, but now he died. He sank in the ocean and his body is decaying there. Now the last part is what the thunder said. Okay, so this is the title of the last part, what the thunder said. Now section 5 takes you to a stony landscape with no water. تخيلوا الأرض الخراب كيف بتكون أرض بس صخور وحجار مرمية وما فيش فيها مياه. There are two people walking, and one notices in his peripheral vision that a third person is with them. When he looks over, though, this other person disappears. Oh, it's a scary actually story. In a dramatic moment, thunder cracks over the scene, and its noise seems to say 3 words. تخيلوا صوت الرعد الآن، هو ارتعبوا يعني، كانوا 2 وأرض هيك قاحلة، وحسوا في واحد وراهم، واحد منهم حس إنه طرف عينه إنه في حدا ماشي معهم، فلما التفت ما شافش حدا، فجأة صوت الرعد ضرب. Now the sound of the noise of the thunder as if it was saying 3 words in Sanskrit اللي هي اللغة السنسكريتية. Data, Dayavam, and Damayata. Data, Dayavam, and Damayata. Now, which command you? What are the meanings of these 3 words? The first one, data, give. Dayadavam, sympathize. Damayata, control. So give, sympathize, and control. This is followed by a repetition of the word shantya, which means the peace that passeth all understanding. Okay? Shantya اللي هي أغنية يعني بمعنى إنه the peace that passeth all understanding. After all that slogging, T.S. maybe gives us a little hope with this final word, Shanta, that there could be peace that passes all our understanding, all the misery and the tragedy that we are living in. Okay? Because he wanted you to give, to sympathize, and to gain control over your life. Then you may get this kind of peace that will actually surpass the misery, the tragedy, and the horror of this world. Okay? But who knows? We don't know. We need Eliot to explain this for us. This is why the scholars say that maybe not. He's not actually giving us any hope. Okay? Maybe he's saying that it is death that is the peace that surpasses or passes all understanding. Why to consider that this peace is in this life? Okay? Okay, fine. Thank you for now. I will stop here this part, and the rest of the the discussion of the poem, in which we will focus on the themes, okay, of the poem. We will, inshallah, do it in the second part. By the way, I didn't write the poem here because it is a very, very long poem, but you can find it on the internet, and if you want, read it. But even when you read, you will find yourself face difficulty understanding, because you will need to read the criticism on it or analysis of it in order to understand the ideas that T.S. Eliot is proposing for us. Okay, for now, for you, it's enough that you understand the ideas that I'm explaining here, and to get the main ideas that T.S. Eliot explained here. Okay, thank you very much, and see you in the next video.